God, Thor Love and Thunder was such a bad fucking movie. I enjoy doing my rewrites, even though they don't get the most views, and my dad actually recommended I rewrite this movie. It's one we watched quite a while back, and nobody enjoyed it. Taika Waititi should not have been given this much control over the movie. He shouldn't have been given so much control either back over Thor Ragnarok, but that did well enough to warrant him getting more say in how he wrote this movie, and he just turned into a fucking joke. So I sat thinking and I worked on a script of how I would have rewritten Thor Love and Thunder. Minor notes, Korg is not in this movie. He doesn't fit the tone, and I'm going for a much darker tone, so the comedy would have been dialed down a shitload. There's also minor things like obviously the screaming goats are cut out because that's stupid, and I'd cut out the children being kidnapped by Gore. I'll explain what happens properly. But without much further ado, let's go right into it. So in this rewrite, we'd start with a man wandering a desolate, dark planet. He's hopeless, alone, gaunt, his skin barely holding onto his bones. You can tell he's really at his wit's end. When he comes across this temple, completely abandoned, but it has this sense of evil, And he clutches a necklace hanging around his neck, a symbol of some sort of unknown god. And this is a hint towards who he is. He steps into the temple and starts to hear voices. They talk to him about his God, about his people, how his God has forsaken him, his people are gone, and he's let them down. He approaches an altar, and there's an item laying upon it, a sword. A dark sword. It pulls in the light around it. And the scene ends with him picking it up, with a slight hint to its corruption, with the veins in his hand and up his arm going black. Keep in mind symbiotes, because obviously the Necrosword does have its connection to the symbiote, and I want to play more into that with this rewrite. We'd cut to Thor next. He'd still be traveling with the Guardians of the Galaxy, but be back in fighting shape, better than before. But this time he would receive a transmission from New Asgard, from Valkyrie, and this would concern Jane Foster. So we're jumping ahead a little. He regretfully leaves the Guardians and returns to Earth. So that's basically writing them out of the movie. New Asgard is now flourishing, returning to its former glory. But instead of playing up the hamminess of it, it would be styled after an old Nordic village. Those buildings similar to what you'd see in a Viking's home. And the Longhouse is the main hall, inhabited by its current ruler, which is Valkyrie, the queen of the Asgardians. So Thor would meet with Jane. Jane's in New Asgard, dying. She has stage 4 cancer, and Valkyrie had brought her to New Asgard when she found out. But since it's progressed so far, all they can do is numb the pain. There's nothing even their science can do. And she has about a month or two left, and Thor decides to spend some time with her for the first time in ages. We would jump in time a little bit of them spending time together. We'd find out that they separated because of his obligation to protecting the galaxy, and she felt like she was in the way of that. I'd skip the whole melodramatic, stupid plot about his hammer and all that. That's not going to happen in this. Anyway, he would take Jane around New Asgard, and we'd have a little bit of a hint when she comes across the fragments of Mjolnir on display. They'd react to her slightly, nothing major yet, but she would notice it. We'd cut back to Gore. He's starting to ravage planet after planet with his new weapon, the Necrosword, killing god after god. We'd actually see that he's now killed his own deity, the one that he had on his necklace, and he's hunting them one by one, searching for something called the All Black. We'd maybe have them say that the Asgardians would know more about it, or the Olympians would know more about it. That's the most we get. We could have a little bit of a scene of Valkyrie receiving info about other planets being attacked by this mysterious man, but Thor decides not to investigate because he wants to spend time with Jane. So, coming back to Thor and Jane, he'd be with her when night falls and a strange man arrives, hooded. He hasn't got his army with him yet, but it is Gore. He's not attacking, and he approaches Thor politely, telling him he knows of the Asgardians' travels, their wide knowledge, and that they have the knowledge that he needs. He threatens Thor, saying that if he doesn't help him find what he wants, he'll destroy everything near and dear to him. and he mentions the All Black. Thor attacks Gorr, but Gorr is a lot stronger than he appears, summons his monsters, and demands access to the information Asgard has. In the battle, he gets the upper hand on Thor, and Jane desperately reaches out towards the fragments of Mjolnir. They reform, and she wields its power, turning into mighty Thor. Her body appears to be healed, and she fights alongside Thor to repel Gorr. He threatens that he will find what he wants, even if the Asgardians won't give it to him, and he disappears. Jane drops Mjolnir and reverts to a second state, with Thor rushing to her. She's a lot worse than before, and he makes her promise never to use it again, as it will just speed up her death. After this, they realize that something pretty important is missing: the Queen. Gorr has taken Valkyrie to the Shadow Realm, his own dimension created using the sword. He tries to interrogate her about the All Black Vault, but she refuses to tell him. We don't learn much more about it, but he tries to torture her and gets into her mind using his abilities. Here we have a little bit of an explanation that the All Black Vault was sealed away centuries ago, and only two people would know about it: the Asgardians and the Olympians. So, cutting back to Thor, he would explain to her what the All Black is, because he knows what it is. His father was the one who sealed it. So in this rewrite, the origin of the sword is that it's the Necro Sword, forged by an ancient enemy using a mysterious dark energy known as the All Black. This unnamed enemy was fought by two of the oldest gods in the universe, Odin and Zeus. They defeated the enemy. We're not given his name yet. Obviously, it's a big reveal, and anyone who knows more about the Necro Sword would figure it out. But they sealed him away, tore the All Black from his body, and locked it in a vault deep towards the center of the universe. His sword was thought lost in the battle, but somehow this man, Gorr, came across it and found it. And it's corrupting him, pushing him to kill god after god, desperate to free the All Black and bring all life in the universe to a halt. It's a serious threat, and Thor realizes that since Gorr didn't get what he wanted from the Asgardians, he'll go after Zeus and the Olympians, and he decides that it's time to leave and find him. Jane wants to come with him, but he refuses. He takes a ship and decides to travel to Zeus's realm. He uses Stormbreaker to power it, but the Bifrost is still damaged and Mjolnir can't access it. Maybe he'd have a conversation with Heimdall's son, who's trying to work on rebuilding the Bifrost. As he leaves on the ship, he realizes that Jane has stowed away on board, using her mighty Thor form. She refuses to let him go alone, and despite what he says, he can't force her to stay in New Asgard. They eventually arrive in Olympus. Now, this isn't going to be Omnipotent City. Again, I want to cut out the goofiness of the original. Olympus is a sprawling city of white marble and gold, similar to the way Asgard was, its own realm, and it's inhabited by the Olympian gods. Thor demands an audience with Zeus, who's an old friend of his father. In this form, Zeus is wiser, but he's aggressive compared to Odin. He carries the old age, but he's more of a fighter. He believes Gorr would be no match for the Olympians. This is tested when Gorr eventually does arrive. He lays siege to the city with his monsters and starts to wipe out the Olympians piece by piece. Zeus blames Thor for bringing Gorr here, despite him not actually doing it, and Gorr manages to breach the city. He reaches the main temple where Zeus, Thor, and Jane are, and he takes on all three altogether. Thor and Jane are pulled away from the fight when the shadow monsters attack, and Gorr fights Zeus one-on-one. Still a powerful man, Zeus actually manages to hold off Gorr all on his own for quite a while, but eventually Gorr is able to get the upper hand and beats Zeus. Zeus is terrified when he sees the Necro Sword, and Gorr forces him to tell him where the vault is and how to open it. We don't see what it is, but Zeus does give him this information, and Gorr prepares to lay the killing blow when Thor and Jane attack him. The Thunder God refuses to let go as Gorr tries to flee, and he pulls Thor and Jane into his Shadow Realm. One segment I really liked in the original movie was the black and white world, and I want to keep it in this. So they are separated from Gorr when he brings them to the Shadow Realm. They're stranded on this black and white mini planet. Thor and Jane do manage to come across Valkyrie, and she's shocked, tells them they can't be here. Gore attacks, and this time not even the three of them can fight him because it's his own realm. He's way more powerful. He reveals that he now knows where the vault is and how to open it. He needs a weapon empowered by something ancient, like the Bifrost. He beats down Thor and takes Stormbreaker, leaving the three of them stranded in the Shadow Realm. Things seem pretty dire, but they're contacted by Heimdall's son, who has restored the Bifrost well enough to get them back to Asgard. Jane uses Mjolnir to open the Bifrost from the Shadow Realm, and they return to New Asgard. She collapses once more, and Mjolnir shatters, falling into little pieces. We cut back to Gore, and he's traveling to the All Black Vault. He finally reaches it and begins to use Stormbreaker to open it. He's struggling, and it's not opening yet, so we get a bit of a scene with his backstory. He was a worshipper of a minor god. His planet fell into ruin and was dying. They were desperate for their god to save them, but he never came, and they eventually managed to get a small team off-world. This team crash-landed on a desolate planet. It's hinted that the Necrosword had something to do with this crash landing, but Gore was the only survivor. After this, he would stumble throughout the planet, slowly starving until he found the sword and was able to use it to return home. He found that his planet had died, along with his daughter, and there was nobody left. After this, he vowed to kill every god in existence for their ignorance, ignoring people who need them. Back to Thor. Jane is currently dying. The Asgardians say she probably has a week left to live, and Thor's utterly destroyed. But Valkyrie approaches him and tells him that this is far from over. Gore's at the All Black Vault. They need to stop him. And we have a moment where Thor feels like he can't fight Gore without his weapon. And he goes into a bit of contemplation and is finally able to awaken his lightning abilities, reaching his full strength. Well, I'd say his full strength, but as high as he can right now. He meets with Heimdall's son and asks if he can open the Bifrost. And the son can without a weapon, but only once. It's a one-way trip before he's strong enough. So either they win and use the Bifrost to get back, or they lose. Valkyrie won't let him go alone, so Thor and Valkyrie head off as the child opens the Bifrost and sends them to the All Black Vault. They arrive and begin to fight Gore. Thor uses his lightning, fighting hundreds of shadowed creatures at once. Valkyrie helps too, and they actually start to push back against Gore. But it reaches a pivotal moment when the vault finally cracks open. The All Black flows out and pours over Gore in this misty black cape, similar to his design in the comics. It fully empowers Gore, and this sends shockwaves across the universe. It's felt even in New Asgard. Jane wakes up upon feeling this, but we don't see what happens with her quite yet. Thor and Valkyrie continue to fight, but this new power is way overwhelming. Gore's own shadow creatures just fall and die when he gets close to them. It's also having an effect on Gore. He's still mortal, and there's glimpses where someone keeps speaking through him, speaking about how he's finally awake. And the All Black, you can tell, is starting to take control of Gore. Jane, back on New Asgard, staggers out of bed, approaching the fragments of Mjolnir, begging it to help Thor one more time. We see the fragments glow, and the scene ends. We cut back to Gore. He has a grand speech, finally taking on the title of Gore the God Butcher. He speaks about how its master is awakened by its freedom, how Gore is just a puppet. And once Thor and Valkyrie are dead, it will destroy every piece of life in the universe, then the next universe, then the next. As he's giving this evil speech, the Bifrost opens and Jane arrives. Thor's shocked and pretty saddened by her arrival, but she tells him there's no time to care about her. They need to fight. The three of them work together, getting a bit of a second wind, and push Gore back. Thor's able to unleash his strongest attack yet, pouring his lightning out as strong as possible. Starts to burn away pieces of the All Black, and it stuns it, saying that he's even stronger than Odin was, that it's never seen this kind of power. They work together, calling out to Gore himself, telling him that he can't really want to wipe out all of existence. Is this all this crusade is for? We'd cut to Gore's mind. He's alone, weak and on his knees, similar to how he was on the planet in the beginning of the movie. He hears his daughter's voice, telling him that this isn't right, that this is evil, that something's wrong. And he's managed to push through for a brief moment. He fights for control as Thor approaches and tears the All Black off of his body, casting it back into the vault and reclaiming Stormbreaker. As he reclaims Stormbreaker, he seals the vault as the All Black screams in anger. Gorr drops the Necrosword, and as it hits the ground, it shatters into dust. He now can't hold him anymore. His body is completely destroyed by the All Black, and he lays on the ground smiling as he sees his daughter approach as he fades away. The day's saved, but not without tragedy. Jane looks at Thor, but she knows her time is up. They both know it. Thor kisses her as her abilities fade away along with her life. She passes away and he lays her on the ground, placing the reforged Mjolnir on her chest. Valkyrie approaches, telling Thor that she'll be in Valhalla, having died a noble death in battle. Thor's hurt, but he picks up Mjolnir. It's finally reconnected to the Bifrost, and he uses its power to take them back to Asgard, where they can lay Jane to rest. We cut ahead as Jane's been given a Viking funeral. Valkyrie's standing with Thor, telling him that he deserves to lead. And he agrees, finally feeling like he should now take his place as King of Asgard, with Valkyrie at his side as his advisor. They start to discuss what comes next. A new threat has been awoken. They both felt it when the All Black was released, and they need to prepare. We'd end his scene with a shot of Thor taking the throne, injured and weary, unsure of what comes next. And that's how the movie would end. But, like all Marvel movies, it's got to have some end credits details. So, we're going to start with our mid-credits scene. We'd see a recovering Zeus. He has his son at his bedside, speaking about how the Asgardians have brought nothing but pain to the Olympians. And now that the All Black was released, even briefly, the time has come for the Olympians to finally take the control they deserve, to rule the universe in their vision. His son, revealed to be Hercules, agrees. I'd make Hercules a bit more impressive in this. He looked a little weak in the credits scene, and I'd have him be as big and buff and muscular as possible. He's Hercules, he should be. And for our final end credits scene, we'd see another figure taking the throne, similar to the way we saw Thor taking the throne. A newly awakened foe, the king of the symbiotes, Null. Now, maybe I'd even have a shot of hundreds of thousands of symbiotes all cheering him on as he returns to his throne. Keep him as close to his comic design as possible, and I wouldn't have him have any dialogue. We just see him taking the throne. Comic readers and viewers would know who he is, and anyone who knows anything about the Necrosword would be able to figure it out. And I feel like this would be a better teaser of Null rather than having him appear in Venom 3. I know Sony has the rights and it would be a bit murky to have him in this movie, but I'd want to tease for what comes ahead. We have an upcoming war between the Asgardians and the Olympians, and we have the War of the Symbiotes, which I feel would have been a much better lead into the next phase of Marvel. And there we go. What do you think? I know maybe lore isn't too on point when I'm speaking about the All Black, but I did a bit of research and I feel like it would have fitted quite well. I feel like cutting down the comedy, especially for a movie about Gorr the God Butcher, would have been a way better idea than what Taika Waititi did. The movie in real life was a lot more disappointing, and I feel like my rewrite did it justice. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and give me some ideas on what you'd like to see rewritten in the future. I know this wasn't in my schedule of my upcoming videos, but I thought, why not? I enjoy my rewrites, and I had to make one on this movie. It was really bad, and I'd completely forgotten about it until my dad mentioned it to me. I'll see you all in the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.